Welcome home to USA Global TV and Radio, a place where dreams take flight with authentic storytelling, diverse perspectives and meaningful conversations, where global stories unite and bridges are built beyond all borders. Discover world-class education, entertainment, hope and inspiration. Together, we're building bridges worldwide. Subscribe to our channel, USA Global TV. Download our app, USA Global TV. Be our guest or join our team. Visit usaglobaltv.com. Thanks to our founder and executive producer, Dr. Jacqueline Kerbeck. Music score by Yeffy Tang from Cloud Road Music. Voiceover artist Mike Porter. Creative direction by Paul Garcia. USA Global TV and Radio. Your home for global connection. All rights reserved. This video and its contents are the exclusive property of USA Global TV and Radio. Unauthorized use, duplication or redistribution in any form is strictly prohibited.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and welcome home to USA Global TV and Radio, where today's show, Authentic Achievements, is excited, if I'm honest, to be joined by the fabulous Liz Brunner, who is an award-winning communicator, a keynote speaker, and an executive coach. She's dedicated to helping people lead with authenticity, presence, and purpose. As the CEO of Brunner Communications and a former Emmy award-winning ABC TV news anchor, Liz has spent over 35 years mastering the art of powerful storytelling. She's the best-selling author of Dare to Own You and the host of the award-winning podcast, Live Your Best Life. Through her coaching and Brunner Academy speaking training, Liz empowers leaders to step into their full potential. And I'm so thrilled to welcome Liz to Authentic Achievements to share her incredible journey and her insights with us. Welcome, Liz.
Oh, hello. It's so wonderful to be with you, Kim. And good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to wherever everybody is around the world today.
Oh, it's so exciting to have you here. And I know from our previous conversations, this is going to be a good one.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm excited about it too.
Oh, I love every time we get the opportunity to chat together. But for our audience who haven't perhaps had that opportunity yet, can you tell them a little bit more about what got you here? So your life so far.
Oh, in a nutshell, I consider myself in my fourth career chapter because I started out as a high school music teacher singing semi-professionally and toured the world, Austria, Germany, Switzerland, Italy, and Greece singing. And after a couple of years, I felt like there was something more I was supposed to do, Kim. And so I left teaching, not knowing what I was going to do, worked in retail for a couple of years, you must pay the bills. And then I got into television. And that's a whole long story, which people can read about in my book, Dare to Own You. But I ended up having an amazing 28-year career in television. My last 20 years of those 28 were in Boston at ABC TV News Center 5. And then again, I had this gut feeling there was something more I was supposed to do. The difference this time around than when I left teaching was that I knew that I had experience. I knew that I had skills that I could teach people. I also knew that I had gifts and talents that I had been blessed with that I wanted to be able to use and be of service in some way. And so 12 years ago, literally this month, I launched my business. Actually, next month, I launched my business. And I'm an executive communications coach, keynote speaker, and author. And I've had my podcast, Live Your Best Life with Liz Brunner. So that's how I got here today, and how you and I connected was on your podcast. So I hope people will look forward to that coming up next month. But I'm so honored to be able to be here and to share with our listeners today and our viewing audience all the things that I am bringing and sharing with people that are tips and tools and techniques that can help them live a best life. I believe my vision and purpose here is to teach, motivate, and inspire people to live their best life, whatever that means for them. And everybody has a different vision for their own life. But that's what got me here today.
Oh my goodness. I love that, Liz. And I loved it when we last chatted about it. And I love that a whole piece is around helping people live their best life, whatever their best life is, instead of needing to conform to what we believe society thinks our best life should be. So I love that that's part of your purpose. And the other part, and we chatted about this before, but I'd love us to bring this to life, is people could look at that and go, they're very disparate chapters of your career. You know, they're quite different. So you retail, and yet there's a real commonality, isn't there, throughout all of your different career elements that really is about the power of using your voice, but you so much more eloquently than I do. So could you bring that to life for us as well, please?
Well, people often say, how did you go from teaching to TV to what you're doing now? And I had to figure out what my own themes and patterns were. I had to connect the dots. And so when I was teaching high school choral music and singing semi-professionally, sharing stories through song. When I was on television, I was sharing other people's stories with my voice. As an executive communications coach, I'm helping other people learn how to tell their story, and given my vocal background, how to use their voice well. And now as a keynote speaker and an author, I'm sharing my story using my voice. So those are the themes and patterns that have really connected the dots for me. And I love being able to share with people how to connect the dots for themselves, because people often say, well, I'm too old to do another chapter, or I don't have the right experience. Well, guess what? You do. You know more than you think you know. In fact, my grandmother, Dr. Dorothy Dunning Chaco, used to say that there is no knowledge ever wasted. And there is so much truth to that. We know more than we think we know, and we have to trust that. And understanding that our experiences, good and bad, personal and professional, there are themes and patterns that can help you create that next chapter for yourself, should you so choose.
Oh, I love that. And I love your grandmother. I've listened to your book, and her wisdom is peppered throughout, isn't it? And she has always, she strikes me as a very sage and wise soul. Would that be fair?
Oh, 100%. She was an amazing woman, and she had a number of doctorates, medical doctors, and she started the first leprosy colony in India. Wow. And what's so interesting about that is she married my grandfather, who was 100% Indian. My grandmother was American, and they spent a lot of time figuring out whether or not they should even get married, because back in the 1930s, when they were figuring this out, they met at Columbia University. They knew that it was going to be challenging for them because she was going to lose her citizenship, and my grandfather was going to lose his opportunity to be a bishop in the Syrian Christian church if they married. But they married, and the reason the Indian people accepted her was because she could help them as a medical doctor. She was an amazing, amazing woman, so too is my mother. The apple doesn't fall far from the tree.
I love that. And it's those passed down pieces of wisdom, isn't it? And also that passed down passion for purpose. I think that's when we chatted before, the passion around finding your purpose and then using that passion to have the courage to overcome the challenges that get in the way, because life loves to throw us a little plot twist, doesn't it?
Always. And I'll share another quote, if I may, which is one from my mother, which is, the goal of living is to be able to absorb all of the pain of life and lose none of the joy. Look, life is going to throw challenges at all of us, obstacles at all of us. That is a part of life. But how we choose to rise above, how we choose to look at that, I'm not saying it's easy. I am not saying it's easy, but we have a choice in how we respond to those situations that come our way.
Liz, I love that. And we are definite kindred souls.
Yeah.
I believe everything in life is either a lesson, a blessing, or both. So in the moment when I'm not feeling blessed, of which there's a few, I look at the lesson and the blessing's right there, isn't it? It's, as you say, it's in the, it's not in what happens, it's in how we choose to respond to it that our opportunity really lies. Would that be fair?
A lot of people also feel like, oh my gosh, I was a failure because this didn't work out or that didn't work out. It's only a failure if you don't learn the lesson, no matter the situation, personal or professional. Can you take whatever lessons those are and use them to propel you forward? Again, it may not be easy, it may take time, but are you willing to do that inner work? Are you willing to be self-aware? Are you willing to look at it from a slightly different perspective, a different lens, and give yourself permission to look at it from a different lens? Then you can take that lesson forward into life.
Oh, I love everything that you say. You know, one of the things that I regularly say to my little girl is you need to give yourself permission to be human. And as humans, we are perfectly imperfect. We are flawed. We'll make mistakes. And that's okay. It's about what we learn from them. It's about what we do as a result of having that lesson, and having the courage to do inner work, because that step's not easy.
No, it's not. It's absolutely not. And I'm a firm believer that sometimes being imperfect is more perfect, because you are being your best authentic self, and owning that, giving yourself permission to own that, having the courage to own that. It's not always easy, but those are the first steps.
So I completely agree. And it is, as I say to Scott all the time, we are perfectly imperfect. Our imperfection is our perfection, because it's our opportunity to grow and evolve. But whereas the bits of us that are already perfect, there's not a lot we can do with that. There's no opportunity to evolve those, as though unless we lose them. So when you're giving keynote speeches, what are the main topics that you like to talk about?
I have several topics, and thank you for asking about that. But one that sort of brings all of them together is the it factor. Unlocking the it factor through intentional transformation. It factor. The it factor is about garnering more confidence, more presence, more authenticity, which leads to more influence. And how you get that is by aligning your physical, your mental, and your relational self. When all three are aligned, that is when you can achieve the it factor. And the it factor is so important. I believe it. Anybody and everybody can have the it factor. And when you do, you have bigger opportunities, more career advancement, deeper connections with people. But it starts with the physical. And I'm not talking just your nonverbal communications tools that you have, because that's all energy, kinetic energy. We're like sonars. Okay. We're always emitting and receiving information, all that energy. But now take that one step further to your physical movement, because we all know that movement, whether it's just breathing or you're actually exercising, I happen to love to exercise. I do it like 6-7 days a week, but that movement really helps you with that energy. And it also then connects you to your mind, which is the second pillar of intentional transformation. Because this brain of yours, this head of yours, it's like your internal GPS. And what you're telling it becomes your actions. What you're thinking about yourself becomes your actions. Do you have limiting beliefs? Do you have imposter syndrome? Now, it's one thing to believe that you can make a change, but then you have to do the work. Do you own who you are? So when your body and your mind are connected, now that leads to your relational self, because the relationship you have with yourself is the relationship you're going to have with everybody else. And that's where that piece starts. And that goes into, do you own your weaknesses? Do you know what they are? Are you owning who you are? And then that leads into your communication skills. And the way you communicate with people develops trust or not with people. They can feel that confidence. They can feel that belief. And so now when you have all three of these combined, that is when you have the it factor through intentional transformation. That's in a nutshell. There's a lot more to it than that, but I gave you a little Reader's Digest version.
Sounds so simple. We'll all be doing.
Yeah, so simple. It is and it isn't, Kim. It is and it isn't. It requires the work, the inner work, the discipline to do the inner work. And it's not something that you can fake, but it is something that is very real. And here's the other thing from an organizational standpoint. When you have people, employees in your company that have the it factor, companies that have teams that are built on the it factor create organizational transformation. And those companies are more trusted, they're more believable, they have more purpose and more success.
I love that, because it's so true, isn't it? You know, we are, as an organization, we are the result of the culture that we have
Yes.
implemented and that we allow to thrive. And if we don't if we don't do that intentionally, then
Mhm.
culture can undermine what we're thinking. I had a client I was talking to about this, and I was like, you might be the kindest, most driven, most purposeful individual, but it doesn't matter what you do and say. It also matters what you allow to be said and done that goes unchecked. So if you're allowing other people in your team or in that board to behave adversely to what you're saying, nobody will believe that what you're saying is really what you mean. And so it's also having that courage to take a stand against that value proposition, isn't it? And I love that the first part of the IT is that it's intentional. Because so often we're unintentional in what we're doing, and then we wonder why we end up where we ended up. And you're like,
Yes. We have a choice every single day to move or not move, to think thoughts that are positive or negative, to react to situations in a positive or negative way. We have every single day a choice in our physical, in our mindset, and in our relationships. Intentional transformation. That's the way you move through it, is that you have to make that choice on a daily basis to have more confidence, to have more presence, to have more authenticity, which then leads to more influence. But it's aligning all three of these pillars. And what I love is that this whole idea of intentional transformation leading to the it factor is everything that I coach people on all the time, whether it's your communication skills. And you just mentioned a moment ago about what you say and what you speak. It's what you say, how you say it, how you sound saying it, and sometimes even when you say it actually matters. So what are the communication skills, tools, and techniques that you can use to communicate with clarity, to connect with people, to engage with people? And so bringing all that together. And what I love about this is the work that I do and sharing with people about the it factor and intentional transformation in my keynotes is that I love to unlock the science behind it as well as the soul behind it. And a lot of people think, well, I can't change. This is the way I've always done things. Well, guess what? There's such a thing as neuroplasticity, which means we can change the way our brains think and the way we act no matter our age. Isn't that wonderful to know that scientifically? Neuroplasticity.
I love it. I mean, the human brain is an amazing, amazing thing, and we don't really understand just half of what it can do. I read research where the person uses just 10% of their brain's capacity, just 10. I think there's so much more in there, and I had it explained to me that we, as children growing up, we create these kind of like I am statements, or and I think we create them at the age of 7, and we enforce them at the age of 14, and we embed them at the age of 21. And if we don't go back and intentionally look at them, they are the silent operating system to our life. And that terrified me, because I was like, I don't know about anybody else, but I'm one of these people that the minute my phone flashes up with a software update, I'm like, oh, must do immediately. Don't know why. And yet I looked at it and was like, I'm 52 this year. So if I hadn't gone back and looked at my operating system, it would be 31 years out of date. The thought of running anything else in like electronically in my life with 31-year-old outdated and not really looked at software beggars belief, doesn't it? And yet we don't always know this. So I love that what you're doing is putting that knowledge out there, because that's also one of the first steps, isn't it? One of the first steps is understanding there's an opportunity to change, and that we don't have to stay where we are just because that's where we've always been.
You touched on the brain too here, and what we think about, and those years of those thoughts going through our head. And there's research that suggests, I think it's something like there's 50,000 thoughts that run through our head every day. And sometimes more than 90% of them are negative. Now think about what that is doing to your physical body, to your mental state, to the relationships that you have. And I was just watching something on Instagram, and it was about a scientist who was talking about his students took bottles of water, and they spoke negatively to the bottles of water, and they spoke positively to another set of bottles of water. And when they looked at them after they froze those bottles of water under a microscope, the ones that were spoken to negatively, like I hate you, they had their molecules were all funky. I don't remember the exact word he used, but then the ones that were positive, they had these beautiful crystallized images. Now, just imagine that for a moment. If that's our brain, what can we do to our life by removing some of those imposter syndrome and limiting belief thoughts? Now, it does take work. I'm not lying. That's why I call it intentional transformation. We have to sometimes seek professional help to have those limiting beliefs and imposter syndrome moments go away. And nearly 3/4 of the population at some point in time in their life, Kim, will have feelings of imposter syndrome, will have feelings of limiting beliefs.
I couldn't agree more. In fact, one of the things, I don't think I shared this with you when you're on my platform, but 5 years ago, me and two friends actually launched International Imposter Syndrome Awareness Day to provide free resources to people to go, one of the first steps is talking about it.
Yes.
Those of that imposter, you ain't going to tell anybody because your biggest fear is they're going to find out you're an imposter. If I come and tell you, I feel like...
Well, even when I was considering leaving television, I really didn't know what I was going to do. I was quietly and confidentially talking to leaders in the community, saying and asking, what does somebody like me do if you think you might want to do something else? I don't know. And I was so afraid to share that with people because many of them would look at me and say, well, here's this confident news anchor. She's doing such a great job. She's an Emmy award-winning newscaster. How would she have any feelings of imposter syndrome? And I was petrified to think that I was going to launch a business. And don't talk about limiting beliefs. I didn't think I was smart enough. And I even remember saying to one of the mentors that I spoke to, I said, I don't know if I'm smart enough to run my own business. And you know what he said to me, Kim? He goes, you're smart. You'll figure it out. But I was petrified to even share that feeling with him because, oh my God, what's he going to think of me? But I did.
That so resonates. The amount of times over the years where I would have a different dialogue in my head. And I remember one particular one where I was given an award. I was given a Leader of the Year. And so bad was my imposter syndrome at the time that I came up with a million reasons why I got it. And my final one was they had a point to prove to other people. And then I remember 6 months later on, and I was given this award by a leader that I aspired to be like. And I remember thinking at the time, well, if only he knew what I knew. And 6 months on, he gave me another great accolade. And I caught myself in that moment about to do the same thing. And I remember saying to myself, hold on a second. Somebody you aspire to be like. And you've decided that your opinion, that you're not very good, that you're not worthy, that you're not smart enough, is more credible and more likely than his opinion that you are smart enough, that you do deserve it. And that really hit home for me because I didn't think my opinion was better than his. So in that moment, I was like, right, I'm going to borrow his belief and I'm going to do whatever it takes to not let him down. But it was my first intentional shift of that thinking, which was, why am I allowing this inner voice that isn't serving me to steal the joy? So to take your grandma's saying, the knowledge is, so your mother's, to take the, to deal with the challenges of life without losing the joy. And I realized my own brain was stealing my joy.
And think about that. We tell ourselves so many things, and here's where we have to learn to trust that we know more than we think we know. And that is hard sometimes to believe that. And especially if you already have all those negative thoughts, or sadly, you're getting negative input from other people around you. Look, not everybody is going to be supportive sometimes. If you want to make an intentional change in your life, find people that will support you, find people that will encourage you. And that, again, now takes courage. It takes permission to find those people and surround yourself with people that are going to support you.
That's so true. One of the things that we talk about quite a lot in Imposter Syndrome Awareness Day is the joy of finding your Thrive Hive.
Yeah. Oh, I like that.
Is your 4 or 5 people who are going to have your best interests at heart. That doesn't mean to say they're going to agree with you all the time.
Right.
But they are going to have your best interests. So if they are sharing anything constructively, it is just that. It's constructive. It's not negative. And so collectively, you thrive because you're all trying to do better. Because I think often, people don't mean to necessarily be negative towards us, but actually they're projecting out their own fear. And we just become somebody that they can project it onto.
And it's interesting to come back to the it factor for a moment, because some people are intimidated by other people who they see have the it factor. And what I mean by that is, I'm sure all of us at some point in time in our lives have seen someone walk into a room and we have felt their energy. I mean, it's just undeniable. There's a confidence, a charisma, a something, the it factor. And some people are attracted to that, and some people feel intimidated by that, because of their own feelings of either a lack of self-worth or imposter syndrome or limiting beliefs. And yet I'm such a firm believer that everybody can have the it factor. And some people might be thinking, well, why would I want the it factor? Well, is there a promotion that you've been trying to get and it's not happening and it might elude you? Is there an opportunity where you're in a meeting, for example, and you so desire to be seen and heard as you intend and put forth an opinion, but you feel like you can't? If those kinds of things are happening, I want you to think about the it factor. What can you do to achieve that it factor so you can have more confidence, more presence, more authenticity, and ultimately more influence? Be seen and heard as you intend.
Oh, it's so true, because as we develop and as we grow, and I've done lots and lots and lots of work over the years, which is part of how we evolve. But it is in understanding what's the purpose of doing that evolution. What's the purpose of doing that difficult work? Because it is difficult. It's not easy to do. Right. But actually, if your passion is to serve, you can serve better by being the best you that you can be. And so for me, once I recognized that, I was like, oh, this isn't for a selfish reason. This is actually because I want to have a better, more positive impact on a wider audience that I can only do if I go and do the inner work and realign myself and adjust myself to some of those. Why am I telling myself this? And where's that come from? And do I really believe that? Or has it just been something I've got so used to saying?
This little spinning thing in your brain that just keeps repeating old patterns for years and years and years, whatever those patterns are. And we all have them. We all have them.
And I think that for me was the most comforting thing. We do all have them. And those feelings of imposter syndrome, we think we're the only ones that have it. And as you said, more than 3/4 of the world at some point feel that inner imposter. So maybe not every minute of every day.
No.
For me, I always joke and say, I think it should almost be everything in the world these days is on a spectrum, almost on a spectrum that says true alignment. The it factor is where your ability and your belief are aligned.
Yes.
Whereas imposter syndrome is where your belief is here and your ability is there. And so you kind of are missing that opportunity. And then obviously you could go the other way where your belief is greater than your ability.
And there are some people who are out there like that. We know that.
Absolutely.
But, bless them all. Bless them all.
I mean, everything is an opportunity to learn. But I think, for me, I'd love your thoughts on this. For me, sometimes I feel it's almost situational. There are times like if I'm doing beans on toast, my little girl, I've nailed that. I'm okay. I don't panic at any point that I have not got the capacity to do that well. Whereas sometimes faced with something new, that doubt can creep in. That, oh, what if I shouldn't? What if I shouldn't be here? What if I shouldn't be doing that? And for me, one of the real levelers was Einstein, who globally recognized as a genius, also had imposter syndrome in parts of his life. And you're like, there is nobody that is safe from these thoughts. But that is what they are, isn't it? Thoughts that we can then, through neuroplasticity,
Mhm.
You say it much better than I do. We can amend that dialogue, amend that running script to start to serve us better.
Yes. Thoughts are not always facts. Thoughts are not always facts. That's number one. And the other piece of that is to give yourself permission to feel the fear and do it anyway.
So true. It is, because actually courage isn't the absence of fear. I think it was Nelson Mandela that said that. It
Mhm.
isn't the absence of fear. It's feeling the fear and having the courage to keep going.
Exactly.
And I think that's what I love about what you're doing and the work that you do. It's about helping people to have the tools. I was just pausing for a moment while I worked out what word I wanted. Have the tools, I think it is. Have the tools to harness their courage, to find their confidence.
And that's what I love, is that I've created this framework of tools and tips and techniques of how you can align the physical, the mental, and the relational self that leads to all of the things that we all want, which is confidence, authenticity, and that influence and presence, and so that we can live our best life. And so being able to bring all the work that I do into this sort of thinking of intentional transformation and the it factor, I just love sharing it with people because it works.
Well, it's so, to use the word you've just used, but it is so impactful, isn't it? Not just on the people that you are working with, but on the people that they then work with or that they then interact with. So it's that real ripple effect, isn't it?
Exactly. And that's what I was talking about when it comes to organizational transformation, because when you have people who are all living and breathing the it factor and aligning their physical, mental, and relational self, you have built a culture in your organization that leads to more trust and leads to more purpose and leads to more success.
I love that. And I've seen it in action in organizations, and it is priceless, the impact that it can have.
Yes.
But one of the challenges that I've seen, and I'd welcome your thoughts on this, is very often, a lot of these skills are what we would badge as soft skills. It always makes me smile, because if they really are soft, why do people find them so hard?
They're actually strategic. I mean, a lot of people want to call them soft skills, but they really are not. They are strategic skills. And when you put that lens on it, it changes the whole trajectory of your thinking about it. You may want to continue to call them soft skills, EQ, but you know what? There's this wonderful survey that talks about the IQ and the EQ. Your IQ may account for 20 to 25% of your success, but guess what? The rest of it comes from EQ. And if you want to call it soft skills, be my guest. I call it strategic leadership skills.
I'm completely with you, Liz. I think it has always made me smile that they badge it as that. And it's like, that's just an excuse not to learn them. And
Right.
because they're harder to learn.
It means change. It means doing something differently. And let's be realistic. The things that got us to where we are today, quite successfully, I might add, may not get us to where we want to be tomorrow. We do have to change our habits sometimes, change our behaviors, change our thinking. And that comes down to intentional transformation.
It's so true, because the world is constantly evolving. So if we don't evolve with it, we face irrelevance. And that's probably the greatest fear of every board level leader I've met. They fear becoming irrelevant.
Yeah.
And yet, instead of therefore embracing the need to evolve, to going and looking at actually, how do I learn these strategic skills? How do I understand that actually, if I better understood my people, and if I could better create an environment where they could thrive, we would collectively thrive.
Yes.
And now everybody's sharing the problem. One of the big things I see is that leaders often don't give their people permission to be part of the solution.
Mm-hmm.
And what you're doing with intentional transformation is changing that, is creating that environment where everybody does have permission to be part of the solution. And that's where the real growth comes from. Would that be fair?
I would agree 100%. And what I think is so interesting about that, Kim, is it's a very different approach to leadership and to leading than maybe it was 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 20 years ago. Now, I believe that is how we move towards success. It's a collective success. And that happens when you give your teams, your people, your culture, the opportunity to be a part of a solution. and not just, dictating this is how it's going to be. Now, yes, as a leader, it is very lonely at the top sometimes. There's a reason for that phrase. It can be lonely at the top because ultimately, as the leader, you may have to make those tough decisions. But as a leader, are you listening to your constituents? Are you listening to your teams? Are you listening to your employees? Are you listening to your partners? Are you allowing them the opportunity to contribute to the culture in a healthy, positive way? So there's so much we could talk about when it comes to leadership and intentional transformation and organizational transformation, but it is an important component.
I love it. We've only scratched the surface, haven't we?
Yes, we have.
One of the things I'm just in the process of getting my book published, but for me, one of the new and evolving leadership skills that I perceive to be really important, I'd love your thoughts on it, is curiosity. It's that ability to be curious about self and others, curious about technology and sustainability. But to be curious, you've got to first admit that you aren't necessarily going to be right. Because if not, you're not curious. You're just trying to make your point. What are your thoughts on that?
I believe that as a leader, or all of us need to stay curious. We need to continue to stay curious and expand our minds and our brains and be open to different ways of thinking, different ways of doing things. Technology, AI being one of them. I was just a part of an AI Women's Summit at MIT over the weekend, and we were talking about how do you bring in emotional intelligence to this world of AI, and how our humanness, AI can only be as effective and informative as our humanness, what we put into it. It's a mirror of us. Mm-hmm. And so now when you think about that going forward and staying curious, I know myself that up until earlier this year, I was like, I don't know about this AI thing. I'm a little nervous about it. Now I'm curious. Now I'm excited to learn. And I believe that, yes, a lot of people fear losing jobs, and that may be a piece of it, is a piece of it. But how can you learn to adapt? How can you learn to be resilient through some of these things? Because it is important to stay curious in order to grow. If you think about the fact that, I don't know when the smartphone was developed, but even going further back than that, all this technology that we've had over the last decade, over the last 100 years, and how changes have occurred, somebody had to be curious about doing something differently. And look where we are. And this is just a part of that evolution. Who knows where we're going to go 100 years from now?
That's the exciting bit, isn't it? And I often think sometimes the phrases that we were brought up with don't help. I was brought up with the phrase "curiosity killed the cat," and I'm going to say it wasn't until I started researching for my book that I realised that's only half the phrase. And in actual fact, it's curiosity killed the cat, and satisfaction brought it back. So it's curiosity killed it, but the satisfaction.
We never talk about the other half of that equation.
So we only put it in as a negative, and yet the reality is what it learned, the satisfaction it got from it, improved its life, brought it back to life. And I think there's so many bits like that. And if we go back to when every time there's been a new evolution, when the internet was brought out, when we've got mobile phones, everyone thought it was the end, the end of everything as we knew it. And to an extent, yeah, it was, but it was the start of everything we were going to know. And so for me, like you, I'm very curious about AI and what's that going to do and evolve for us. Liz, I cannot believe it. The time has disappeared yet again. But before we go, can you share with people how they can get in touch with you and who you help?
Oh, thank you so much for offering me to share that information. Probably the easiest way is to connect with me, social media as well, Instagram, LinkedIn, and Facebook, but also just go to my website, which is lizbrunner.com, LIZBRUNNER.com. And there you will be able to find all of my service offerings and what I do, my keynote speaking topics. You'll also be able to see, you have my book up there right now. Yes, Dare to Own You, Taking Your Authenticity and Dreams into Your Next Chapter. And the second edition of my book just came out this past summer. So it has a little bit of new information from the first edition. But one of the things I'm most proud about this book, besides it being a bestseller and an award-winning book, was that Forbes called it a teaching memoir. And to me, that just really is exactly the definition of this book. And I'm, of course, very proud that Jack Canfield, who is a New York Times bestselling author himself, and for the Chicken Soup for the Soul series, did the foreword for my book. And I remember the day that I asked him if he would do the foreword for my book. And he said, Liz, I have to read it because after all, it's my reputation on the line. I said, of course I want you to read it. And about 3 weeks later, I got an email from him saying, congratulations on writing a great book. Here's your foreword. That was an amazing day, Kim, an absolutely amazing day. So again, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, and lizbrunner.com. You can find all of that information there.
Amazing. Liz, thank you so much. And I highly recommend the book. It's fabulous.
Thank you so much.
I really enjoyed it. And you're right. I mean, Forbes couldn't have put it better. It really is a teaching experience, but done in a gentle, storytelling and inclusive way. So I applaud you for it.
Thank you.
It's been an absolute delight to have you here again. I look forward to our next conversation. And thank you for sharing your insights. And for everybody listening and watching, I hope you found today's show as insightful and inspiring as I have. And until next time, take care.
USA Global TV and Radio proudly presents Tracy Cram-Perkins, a dementia caregiving survivor teaching how to balance care with peace of mind. #1 resource for dementia caregivers. It's the book Dementia Home Care: How to Prepare Before, During, and After. Over 17,000 copies sold of this must-have guide. And now a testimonial from Tracy Smith.
If I was to describe this book to someone who is going through a similar situation, I would underscore how important it is to have some sort of a tool or a guidebook to help you through certain stages. And there's so many, it's such an unknown topic to the average person. And to have this as a reference is essential. It's going to help you get through it personally, as well as help your loved one manage.
To learn more, go to tracycramperkins.com. Tracy Cram-Perkins is an award-winning author. She's also the host of Dementia Home Care television show. Watch it here on USA Global TV and Radio.
In a world full of noise, misunderstandings, and interruptions, master the art of listening with Dr. Jacqueline Kerbeck. Dr. Jacqueline Kerbeck is the listening mentor of USA Global TV and Radio and the Amazon #1 best-selling author of Mastering the Power of Elevated Listening. Elevate your listening. Elevate your life. Join a global learning experience in person or via Zoom. Reserve your spot today. usaglobaltv.com/book-your-session or drjacqueline.thinkific.com. Join Dr. Kerbeck's listening courses or hire her to unlock deeper connections and authentic conversations.
Get ready to wear the brand that's changing the world of media. Introducing the official USA Global TV and Radio online store. From our TV show hosts to our incredible global guests, you asked, we delivered. Rep your appearance with pride. Whether you've been on air, hosted a show, or tuned in, we have something just for you. Visit us at usaglobaltvradiosshop.myspreadshop.com and start shopping today. Check back frequently. We're dropping fresh new designs all the time. Showcase your role in our global community. These designs celebrate your voice, your story, your presence. It's more than just merchandise. It's a movement of hope, inspiration, education, and elevated listening. Head to usaglobaltvradiosshop.myspreadshop.com. Your spotlight awaits. USA Global TV and Radio. Elevate your style. Elevate the world.
Thank you, viewers and listeners of USA Global TV and Radio, for joining us today. We're honoured to have your time and attention as part of our global community. At USA Global TV and Radio, we believe in the power of authentic conversations, meaningful connections, and creating a world of possibilities together. Want to be part of something bigger? Join our team of elevated listeners at usaglobaltv.com, a space where your voice matters and your ability to listen transforms relationships. Stay connected with us across all our platforms for thought-provoking discussions, expert insights, and empowering stories. Subscribe to our channels at youtube.com/c/USA Global TV. Follow us on social media and explore the endless opportunities we're creating for growth, learning, and inspiration. Together, we're not just broadcasting, we're building bridges and changing lives one conversation at a time. For inquiries, contact us at info@usaglobaltv.com. Music by Johnny Dyes. Produced by Executive Producer and Director Dr. Jacqueline Kerbeck. Voiceover by Mike Porter. Creative Direction by Paul Garcia. All rights reserved. Copyright 2025. Visit usaglobaltv.com to view our full terms and conditions.